Today we're going to be taking a look at a set that I'm honestly pretty surprised even exists, that being 75440 AT-AT. This set just released on January 1st with 525 pieces and a pretty bad retail price of $65 US, which is actually $5 more than the $60 gingerbread AT-AT that just released in October, and in a second I'll compare these two sets. But back to this AT-AT, it's part of the midi-scale sub-theme, which LEGO has now rebranded to the Starship Collection. However, as you can see, it's obviously not a Starship, it's an AT-AT, a ground vehicle, which is something that actually really pleases me because making ground vehicles into midi-scale sets is something I've been wanting LEGO to do for a long time. However, at the same time, in hindsight, it does mean that rebranding the sub-theme into the Starship Collection was kind of pointless if they were just going to go ahead and make a set like this anyways. I know the name Starship Collection definitely sounds more professional, however, I wish it would have just stayed midi-scale like it always was since the beginning. But still, this set's existence really excites me, and it makes me hope that we could get more ground vehicles as midi-scale sets in the future. On the back of the box, you're going to find another render of the set, along with two images at the bottom right, one showing the dimensions of the build, being 7.5 inches long and 6.5 inches tall, and then right under that, you're going to find a picture of the snowspeeder in the movie wrapping its cable around the legs. Opening up the box and digging in, on the inside, you're going to find just 4 numbered bags, along with your instruction manual, and of course, since this is an 18+ set, it's going to have some information in the first few pages about the design process of the set and the vehicle in Star Wars. It's some pretty cool stuff. You can pause and read it if you want to. The build itself is also going to have some little hidden Easter eggs that are explained out in the instructions. One, as you can see here, are some snowtroopers that are hidden in the hull of the AT-AT, and this other one is General Veers along with the AT-AT driver hidden in the cockpit. But now taking a look at the actual build itself, I have to say it looks a lot better than I was expecting it to. After seeing it in the product images and from other people's videos reviewing it, I kind of just had low expectations, but after seeing it in person here, I have to admit it looks a lot better than I was expecting. But first, we of course have to compare it to the $60 gingerbread AT-AT that released in October, and as you can see, there is definitely a pretty noticeable size difference. Now obviously you do have to take into consideration that the midi-scale one has the stand, which does add some extra pieces. However, even with taking that into account, it's still quite a bit smaller, and it retails for $5 more at $65. And not to mention, the gingerbread AT-AT literally includes an exclusive minifigure, and obviously the midi-scale one doesn't include anything, so yeah, that tells you about everything you need to know. I think this set is about $15 overpriced and instead should retail for $50 and be in line with the other smaller midi-scale sets like the Acclamator as well as the Invisible Hand. But now actually diving into just the build itself, the first thing you might notice is that its proportions and its shaping are kind of out of whack. For example, like its head is a bit awkwardly shaped and its feet are a bit oversized. However, I'm not gonna lie, I actually kind of like that. It definitely gives the build a bit of charm and character. It almost even has kind of a cartoonish look, except in a good way. Like, I like it. And then of course you're gonna have the snowspeeder here at the bottom wrapping its cable around the legs, and the snowspeeder design itself is very simple. It's definitely a micro scale build. However, honestly, it looks really awesome and it gets the job done. I love the angle that they were able to pose it at. I think it looks really cinematic. And then from there, you're of course going to have the cable that wraps all the way around the legs. And then speaking of the legs themselves, as you can see, they have printed pieces on them as the joints. And then overall, kind of like I mentioned earlier, their proportions are a bit off. They're pretty blocky looking and the feet are slightly oversized. And this definitely might be a bit distasteful to some people. However, I like how they look. And then the feet also look really good. They got quite a bit of detail on them. And then also I just love the way they were able to position and pose the feet on here. I think it looks really good. And if you're wondering, they're just held in by Technic pins. It's kind of tricky to take off because it can break easily. And if you want, actually, I guess, as you can see here, the AT-AT can stand up on its own without the stand. So I guess that's a different display option if you want to do that. But then as you can see here, the stand is really just a black base with 3 Technic pins as well as a sloped piece there. Now, another thing I do want to say about the stand is that I low-key wish it was white. I feel like that was definitely a missed opportunity to kind of make it feel like almost a diorama and recreate the Hoth snow. Like, I mean, I think it would have been really clean if they just made the entire stand white and left the printed plaque black. Just kind of a missed opportunity in my eyes. But then moving on from the bottom half of the build to the top half, like I mentioned earlier, the shape of the head is kind of off. However, in my opinion, it definitely doesn't look bad. I actually like how it looks quite a bit. And then of course, it's also fairly detailed. You're gonna find everything you'd want on an AT-AT head, the 4 main cannons along with the little red transparent piece being the window. And the head itself can actually slightly turn side to side as well. It doesn't have that big of a range of motion, but it's definitely enough to pose it in a few different ways. And then from there, the sides of the head on each side can actually fold outwards, where you can get a look inside at General Veers along with the AT-AT driver that I showed earlier. Moving on from the head to the back half of the walker, or the hull I guess, guess. It looks good. It has very minimal detailing, not anything crazy, but it gets the job done. And the shaping is also nice. They got the angles down right. However, one thing I do have to say is that it is a bit narrow, as you can see here. It definitely doesn't look bad. However, I do have to say I wish it was a little bit wider just to be more accurate. And if you're wondering, the hull is not accessible. These side panels are fixed in place. There's no way to open them or access the interior or anything like that. And then also, if you're wondering, here is what the bottom looks like. There's not much going on, but I mean, it gets the job done. It looks fine. But overall, I do have to say, this build actually surprised me quite a bit. I wasn't expecting to like it this much. It's definitely a very charming little build that you can sit on a desk or a nightstand or something, and I really like that about it. And it also makes me excited at the possibility of getting more ground vehicles as mini scale sets in the future. I would really like to see maybe a turbo tank or an ATTE. However, unfortunately, as good as this build is, and as much as I am enjoying it, the price is absolutely pathetic. Like I mentioned earlier, it really should be $50. $65 is just way too far of a stretch. And if I had to rate this set without the price, just on the build alone, I'd probably give it an 8.5 out of 10. But because the price is so atrocious, I'm going to take off a few points and give it a 7. So let me know what you guys think about this set down in the comments below. If you're new, please consider subscribing. And if you want to check out more of my videos, you can see them on the screen right now.